In anticipation for the upcoming creature feature crawl, we're going to count down 10 of my favorite creature features. Let's do this. What's up, guys? I hope everybody is having a great weekend. My wife actually came up with this great idea because we're going to see this movie Crawl coming up really soon, which I'm really excited for, actually. But she said, why don't you do like a top 10 creature features? And I'll do one even better. I'm going to do 2 top 10 creature features because we were coming up with our list and I tallied like so many. Or I guess we tallied like so many. And I thought, you know what? I can make 2 lists out of this instead of doing like 5 honorable mentions. And I'll release the second video after the release of Crawl because that movie might make the list. Who knows? So it'd be kind of cool to see if it's included in that list as well. So I'm going to give you 10 movies, and I'm sure that I'm going to leave out a few that might be on the second list. So your homework assignment right now, go down in the comments, list your favorite creature features. You don't have to list 10, list 2, 3, 10, whatever you want. But yeah, give me some of your favorite creature features down below. I love creature features. Oh, and by the way, guys, it is thundering and lightning outside like you wouldn't believe. Like, it's so crazy outside that I actually had to bring my vlog camera out there and get some footage. For you guys, just so you could see it, because I don't know, I just have this thing about thunder and rain and all that stuff, and it's really cool. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I think the first type of film that I loved as a young child was creature features. King Kong 76 being my first one that really just got me hooked into the genre, and ever since then, that little, 3-year-old kid is still there inside me craving a new creature feature. So anyway, without further ado, let's get down to it. Number 10, I just mentioned it, King Kong 1976. This movie really hits me on an emotional level because of nostalgia. It is the first creature feature that I discovered back in 70s. It came out in 76, but I remember seeing it when it came on TV, I think the year later. And this came out like right after Jaws. I guess it was kind of the answer to Jaws because Jaws was this huge hit. And so they thought, hey, let's capitalize on that with King Kong. Although this might have been in production like while or before Jaws even came out. But it was 75 Jaws, 76 King Kong. And it wasn't the hit that Jaws was, but it still made some good money. And I love that last act on the World Trade Center, which is kind of sad too because, of course 9/11 and the World Trade Center isn't there anymore. So this movie kind of brings up all kinds of emotions for me. It is so tragically sad at the end when we see Jessica Lange on the Twin Towers and she's crying because the military is shooting down King Kong, and it's just brutal. Number 9 is going to be a fun little Christmas movie, Gremlins. I think Gremlins was directed by Joe Dante, but Steven Spielberg production. It has that Steven Spielberg suburb vibe to it. If you remember, like in the mid 80s, you had a lot of these Steven Spielberg productions popping up, some even directed by Spielberg. But Gremlins is one that always stayed with me, just because the idea of it, the premise is so interesting. How can't get them wet, can't feed them after midnight. All the rules, all that good stuff. It's just fun. And Gremlins is really a fun movie. It's a Christmas movie, and you got Phoebe Cates in there telling the story about how her father died coming down the chimney as Santa Claus. How tragic is that? And the Gremlins are pretty creepy, especially, the idea of these guys multiplying. And then you got the leader of the bunch, Stripe, who kind of creeped me out as a kid. So Gremlins is a lot of fun. Number 9 is one that you might not have thought of. This was one that slipped under a lot of people's radar, Reign of Fire, with Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey. It's a good old dragon movie, and it seems like, there's been so many dragon movies out there, but most of them aren't good. Reign of Fire is actually really good. It took the subject material seriously, and the dragons are no joke in this. Like, playing with fire, literally. When they cast their fire upon this town, all the resources are just completely gone. So that's kind of what it's about. It's about the effect of having dragons around and how they can just completely scorch these communities. And we think of Game of Thrones, the power of the dragons in Game of Thrones. It reminds me of Reign of Fire. That's something that they don't seem to touch on as much in dragon movies, is how dangerous they can be. But you got some great performances too by Christian Bale, and Matthew McConaughey especially is great in this. And did you know Gerard Butler's in this? This is pre-300, by the way, so most people don't even realize that he was in this. Number 7, now don't take too much stock in the ranking of these. You know, number 7 is Jurassic Park, right? And Jurassic Park is probably most of you guys' favorites, okay? But when I put this list together, because I got 2 top 10s, I didn't want to put the best movies in one of the top 10s and put the duds in the other top 10, okay? I kind of mixed it up a little bit. But anyway, number 7 is Jurassic Park. Just to capture that imagination of dinosaurs, you know, up before Jurassic Park came out, you know, we always wondered, like, when are we going to get a really good, really scary dinosaur movie? Because dinosaurs are scary, especially like the T-Rex and all that. So finally the technology was there. Steven Spielberg took advantage of it, and he also made a great movie with great characters. You know, you can have all that great CGI, all the great practical effects. And by the way, I'd say half, if not more, of the effects in Jurassic Park are practical, actually. You just don't even realize it. He seamlessly blends the two technologies together. And you know, Jeff Goldblum, come on people, Jeff Goldblum is so gold in this movie. You know, as well as Richard Attenborough, Samuel L. Jackson, so many great characters in Jurassic Park. So it definitely belongs on this list. Number 6, now this is a trilogy that recently came out, and I picked the best one, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Rise is so good, but Dawn, I think, ups the ante. You know, it's that middle chapter, I guess like Empire Strikes Back, that really goes for broke. And, you know, middle chapters are always fun because they can end on a low note, you know, or a somber note. And Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it kind of does that. You know, this is like the full-on attack of the apes. And you got Gary Oldman in there, you know, crying over, you know, his loved ones and all that. But, you know, the big thing about Dawn is Caesar. You know, Caesar, he's got his community. He really proves himself as a leader at this point. What Andy Serkis did with that character, I think, is so amazing. And it's a shame that Andy Serkis doesn't get nominated because acting is acting. And his acting is like up there with some of the best in the Planet of the Apes series. I don't have any of the early Planet of the Apes movies because you're gonna kill me. I've never seen the original Planet of the Apes, okay? I jumped on for this new trilogy. Number 5, another one that might have slipped past your radar, but I've always loved, is Pitch Black with Vin Diesel. One of his first movies, I think. But Pitch Black is another irresistible premise because once it gets dark, then all these creatures come out. And then you got this really irresistible character in Riddick, of course, because he uses the night to his advantage because he has those like silver eyes. So yes, so many great things going on. He's the ultimate anti-hero, and when you mix an anti-hero with these deadly creatures, it just makes for a fun ride. That's what Pitch Black is. It's a very simple story, some great atmosphere there because they play with the shadows and the darkness, and it works very well. Number 4 is a recent movie that I saw, I think last year on Netflix, The Ritual. This one surprised the hell out of me too because if you remember around this time, around like the last couple years, they had some of these creature features that they were a little bit more ambiguous. They didn't really show the creatures as much. The monster might come to mind. And so when I watched this, I was like, they're probably not gonna show the creature at all. The Village was another example. This one, the last act, they actually show the creature. It's very interesting looking, it's scary, and it's a good story, you know, about this group of guys and they're going to mourn their friend. I think a year later after he died, and then they discover this like little community and how they worship this creature. And it's a very opposing looking creature, pretty crazy looking actually. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. Okay, now we're getting to the top 3, the big kahunas. Number 3 is going to be Predator, one of the greatest creature features / action movies of all time. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger in his heyday. Like, the guy was untouchable at this time. You know, doing this movie, doing the Terminator, Terminator 2, Conan, all this great stuff. But did you know that Schwarzenegger actually, I think he lost like 20, 30 pounds for this role, but he's just so big you don't even realize it. It's so simple, and they haven't been able to capture or recapture the awesomeness of the Predator in just like a single location environment like they did in the first one. You know, that's the problem with making what I call perfect movies. There's not a dry spot in this movie. You love every single character in this movie. And the Predator itself is You know, how do you match Arnold Schwarzenegger? How do you make Arnold Schwarzenegger look like he's going to get his ass whipped? You have a 7-foot stunt double dude get dressed in this very scary looking suit, put him out in the woods, and have that dude chase Arnold. Arnold looked small compared to the Predator, which is no easy feat. And that last act is one of my favorite last acts in like cinema history. How Arnold, like, he sets up all these booby traps, he uses his mind, and then eventually he's able to trick the Predator with that giant log that falls on his head. Number 2 is a Cronenberg classic. It's a remake for The Fly. The Fly is so unsettling. Really, anything Cronenberg does, he always puts a little bit of something that's very unsettling in his movies. And what works about The Fly is it has Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum, I think, is one of the greatest like character actors. He just has this signature about him that you can't teach somebody. You know, he's one of those few actors, and he is on full display in this movie. And slowly but surely, he becomes Brundlefly. And it's sad because you really, you're pulling for that relationship between him and Gina Davis in this movie. And then eventually you start getting scared for Gina Davis because you know that he's turning into this creature and there's no turning back. So you know that this movie's not going to end well. And it's very heartbreaking at the end, but it's so well directed by Cronenberg. And then number 1, no surprise here, Jaws. Jaws is one of the most watched movies in this household. I probably watch it once, twice a year sometimes. It's just so good. It's another one of those perfect movies. It never gets old. I mean, the movie is well over 40 years old now, and it still feels so fresh. And even the backstory is, you know, so interesting because all the limitations on the set force them to not be able to show the shark that much. And so it makes for a better movie. Not seeing the shark until the last act makes it work so well. And then, of course, I always bring up great characters. I have a thing for great characters in movies. I'm sure you do too. But you got Robert Shaw playing Quint, Roy Scheider playing Chief Brody, Hooper, Richard Dreyfuss. I mean, so many great character actors there, and they all work together so well. And, you know, everybody loves a good shark movie. That's what it all comes down to. Sharks are scary as hell. This movie made people afraid to go into the water. It still does it to this day. So anyway, guys, that's my 10 favorite creature features. Got another top 10 coming after the movie comes out, Crawl. I'm going to review the movie, and then it might make the next top 10. So anyway, post in the comments your favorite creature features. Looking forward to seeing them. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.